Here we go.
And do you have a Daruma dolls for your book?
Oh yeah, the Daruma dolls for my book are here. Yeah, we're in my Daruma room here.
The right place to speak together.
Yes, so this one you can see it said book at the bottom.
Yes.
When I filled that in, and then this one was submitting my manuscript. So they're both. I have two little ones. Yeah.
So, great ones.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we can start now. Cathy, I will start in French just to inform our guests.
No problem.
And then we will discuss in English.
Yes.
Alors, bienvenue à tous ceux qui sont avec nous ce soir. C'est notre premier book club de la rentrée, et notre premier book club surtout en anglais, puisque nous avons le plaisir d'accueillir Cathy Anderson, qui est américaine et qui est venue nous parler, qui va venir nous parler ce soir avec nous de son livre qui vient de paraître, qui s'appelle Learning to Lead and Leading to Learn. So hi, Cathy. Here's, I've got my Kindle one, but not with paper. Nous allons bien sûr faire ce book club en anglais puisque Cathy vient de nous dire qu'elle ne parle pas très bien français. Alors, je ne parle pas très bien anglais, mais je vais me débrouiller pour faire ce book club avec elle en anglais. Juste quelques mots pour vous raconter pourquoi on a eu envie d'échanger avec Cathy. Le livre que Cathy a écrit, elle l'a fait avec et au sujet de l'histoire de Isao Yoshino, que vous connaissez peut-être ou pas. Alors, nous avions eu le plaisir de le recevoir en France au Lean Summit de 2018. Certains d'entre vous l'ont peut-être entendu et vu à cette occasion. Mais là, l'histoire que va nous raconter Cathy, c'est justement comment elle a rencontré Isao Yoshino et comment ils ont travaillé ensemble sur le récit de sa carrière chez Toyota, puisqu'il est resté 40 ans chez Toyota et qu'il a eu la chance, la chance, en tout cas, c'est peut-être la façon dont j'en parle, mais de travailler sur des sujets de développement des équipes. C'est vraiment le cœur du livre, hein, on va le revoir ensemble, mais c'est comment Toyota s'occupe de make people. C'est vraiment le côté make people de Toyota. Et il n'y a pas tant de témoignages que ça dans la littérature Lean. On trouve beaucoup de sujets qui sont évidemment abordés, mais un peu moins sur cet aspect-là. Et donc, c'était vraiment pour nous intéressant d'avoir ce témoignage. C'est vraiment presque la saga de Yoshino au pays de Toyota. Yoshino qui a été aussi le sensei de John Shook, puisque c'est lui-même qui a embauché John Shook chez Toyota. Et John Shook a préfacé d'ailleurs le livre de Cathy et Yoshino. Voilà, c'est aussi Yoshino qui a travaillé avec Mr. Nemoto, qui est un des dirigeants de Toyota qui a beaucoup contribué au développement du pilier justement respect et tout ce qui était Toyota Way, les principes managériaux. Donc, c'est vraiment un témoignage de l'intérieur comme on en a rarement finalement. Et donc, ça nous a paru très intéressant d'inviter Cathy et de discuter avec elle du livre qu'elle a donc écrit et qui est paru en juillet, que vous pouvez acheter pour le lire sur Kindle ou en papier. Et ça se lit comme un vrai roman, un roman d'apprentissage. Moi, j'ai trouvé que finalement, Yoshino in your book become like a film hero. So it's the story of little Yoshino became an adult. It's like it's very pleasant to read and interesting to read.
Thank you.
Voilà, donc je vais passer à l'anglais dans 30 secondes. Catherine est là avec nous, Catherine Chabiron. Donc, si vous avez des questions à poser, vous pouvez les poser en anglais ou vous pouvez aussi les poser en français et Catherine les traduira au fur et à mesure et on les écoutera, on les prendra soit à la fin, soit quand elles arrivent, suivant l'intérêt que vous avez. Voilà. So, now we can discuss in English. Welcome with us, Cathy. I'm very pleased to have you in guest in our book club. You are the first American in our book club, so it's
thank you very much.
A challenge for me, but it's okay. before getting in the book, could you perhaps tell us a bit about you, about your past in the Lean, and why now you are with us with your book?
Well, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for being here, and also for understanding that I do not speak French, so I appreciate you doing your book club in English for me today. I am based in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. I actually grew up nearby where I am today. It's near Stanford University, just south of San Francisco. And I, well, it's where to start. I originally, so many places. So I had the amazing experience to move to Japan in 2015, and which is where I met Mr. Yoshino and became friends with him. But I had been involved in Lean for many, many years before that. My first career was in healthcare policy. So I have a master's in public health, and I did academic research in health policy. And I never thought that my academic training would come back to serve me so well, because in many ways this book was created through the same practice of interviewing and writing that I learned through my academic life. When I lived, and I've lived in actually 5 other countries other than the United States. So I have traveled many places. I spent a quarter in college in Spain, and then I lived in London after university. I did my master's degree and worked in Australia for 4 years. And then I also lived in Japan. And I learned and practiced Lean in healthcare. So I worked at a children's hospital for 6 years, and then another large healthcare system here in California before starting my consulting practice 7 years ago. And it was less than 1 year after starting my consulting practice, and just a few months after having my second son, who is 6.5 now, when we found out for my husband that he had an opportunity for our family to move to Japan for his job. And as a Lean practitioner, I couldn't have been more excited for a particular country to now have the opportunity to go to. And
Lean country.
I know, the Lean, right, go learn Lean from the source. And I thought, first, what an incredible opportunity for me as an individual, of a Lean practitioner and somebody who likes to travel to go there. But also what a unique opportunity I had to not just keep that learning for myself, but to also share it with other people. And when I moved to Japan, I knew that I wanted to start writing a blog and sharing what I was learning with other people. And so that was a really special way for me to stay connected and also have a sense of purpose, not just being there as a traveler, but really there with intentional learning. And I had met Mr. Yoshino at a conference about 6 months before we moved to Japan, and when he was on stage with Mr. Yoshino, with John Shook, and we talk about this inside the book. But sorry, I got distracted by the slides. We made plans to get together, and what I thought it was going to be, there you go, of my first and once and only lifetime opportunity to spend time with Mr. Yoshino has turned into an incredible relationship for both of us. He gave me permission from the very beginning to write about our conversations on my blog. Okay. And yes, and so at our first time, I said, I am just starting to write a blog. Would it be okay for me to just share with other people what I'm learning from you? And he said, yes, anything I say to you, you can write about. And of course,
so your book came from your blog.
Well, that was the beginning.
Not so directly, but a kind of
it was the start. Yes, it was the start of it. There was actually an entire series of blog posts, and you can see I write about each of our times.
I wrote them before know you.
Yes. Well, and that's how I got to know so many people around the world. And because people were so interested in sort of what we were learning together, and through the conversations and sort of my taking what I've learned from him and his wonderful stories and insights, it was a real collaboration all the way through. It was about 3 years ago. We said, well, maybe we should do something bigger. And Mr. Yoshino had the idea that this should be he called it a booklet like more of like a small thing, maybe a compilation of the blog
Of
posts.
article or
Yeah, articles. But really, as I was talking with him, I thought, no, this is good. There's so much that he has to share, and so much knowledge of history, of insights. I knew it was going to be more than just a booklet. And so we set out to work on a book together and went through many. I started with interviewing him, going back from the very beginning. And some stories came out very easily, and other pieces really took many years for me to really piece it all together, especially the parts at the end that were more complex and not just short elements. And so that's
okay.
really how it came to be. And we worked in partnership and collaboration with this the book, and talking all the time. Yes.
So you didn't wake up one morning and said, we will make a book together. It's
Yes.
long path
Yes.
from the
Yes.
blog, the booklet, and then
Yes.
the book, and then the
Yes.
time to write it.
Yes,
True.
yes. And we had started collaborating around the world. So he had come to the United States several times and stayed at my house. And we were doing seminars together, similar that I know he had done some seminars in France. And we also went to some conferences in Europe together as well. And so we were really seeing that our partnership together really worked well.
Partnership and
Yeah,
friendship. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a friendship, and then the partnership from a professional standpoint.
Yeah,
and he says that the questions I ask have helped him think, and yeah, it's been really special. And so yeah, it's like he's like my dad in some ways.
Your dad or your sensei?
Well,
or both.
No, well, both. But he's the same age. I am one generation younger, and so he's a sensei in many ways, but I also say we have more of a partnership than a sensei, like a relationship, because he was never my manager or my coach in that way. Our relationship really started, of course, he's a sensei from having so much knowledge, and but I would say we consider each other more collaborators than anything else. Yes.
I just put on some pictures that we take in France at Lyon. I didn't have your pictures, but to show and share the head of Mr. Yoshino with all the people.
Yes.
So it was in Lyon.
Yes. If you want to see some more pictures of us together, you can go to my blog or the book website. I have a slideshow of from the first time we met.
Yes, I saw it. In different country, different. So selfie or a lot of. So it's a great partnership, and then it comes now with a book. So it's a great one. You are proud of it, I think. Is it your first book? I think it's your first book.
Yes, it's my first book. I've written some master's theses, but not a book. So yes, and Michael has helped me along the way, saying it's a big undertaking to write a book, and it really is.
Sure. If we go to the content, we start the book with this quote of Isao Yoshino: "The only secret to Toyota is its attitude toward learning. We don't even notice and take it for granted." Is that your challenge? Was it your challenge to talk about these secrets, or do you say something else? I don't know.
I don't know if I would say this was the challenge, but this quote came from one of our earlier conversations, because when I first moved to Japan and was starting to talk with Mr. Yoshino, I was interested as a lean practitioner and like what from him as a 40-year Toyota leader and veteran, what did he consider to be what makes Toyota so special? And I remember asking him this question several times, and he's like, there is no secret. There's nothing kind of hidden or special, but I would say that's really not true, because the specialness is really around this attitude towards learning. And he said more that like they don't even notice it and they take it for granted. And I think that this echoes or reflects what other researchers such as Jeff Leiker and Mike Rother and many others who have gone to Toyota to study the culture. They say the Toyota people cannot even talk about it because it is so
It's
ingrained.
inside.
It's inside of who they are, yes. And so what I wanted to demonstrate through this book was, one, to tell stories, because I think we learn so much more than stories. And there are so many books out there already about tools and techniques and principles. I actually started writing the book around principles and then thinking I would tell the stories. But I thought that really seeing how one person evolved as a leader, as a human, both from the personal things in his life, but also from the organizational side, in some ways humanizes it and makes it more accessible to all of us to see. Yes.
That's why I say it's like is a witness of Toyota's growth. It's a witness from inside, and it's quite unique. I don't know if you said it this word in English. Unique.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I don't remember to have read a book like this one on this part of Toyota's story. Because I read Taishi Ono books, but not in this on the same way of the Toyota Secret.
Yes.
At the other side of the Toyota Secret.
Yes, not the more Nomoto side, the people side.
And you say, I think I read in your book that there was Taishi Ono. Very on the TPS and the pull flow and all these aspects. Yes. And there were Mr. Nemoto on the human aspect.
Yes.
And they are they the same? They were the same age or the same period or?
Same period. They joined. I think they joined roughly the same time, right before the Second World War. Yes. But they had very different approaches to management and leadership.
And complementary.
Yes, very influential. But Mr. Ono had left, I believe he left the organization earlier than Mr. Nemoto did. And at that time, like he was probably in his 70s, late 60s or 70s. I don't know specifically, but the times that Mr. Yoshino in the late 1970s was working under that structure, there was real emphasis from the Toyota management that they were making an intentional shift to more of this people side of leadership and cultivation, and that's where the experience of Conpro and other things came out of as well.
It's and I was very surprised to see that the Toyota way with the 14 principle, I think, is after the depart of Yoshino. It's 202, 2000. I don't.
2001. It was around the time he was retiring. Yes, but from what I learned from Mr. Yoshino, Mr. Cho, who was then the president of Toyota, had been wanting to write or create this document for many, many years. And so it was in progress through much of the 1990s and then came out finally in 2001.
Okay.
Yes.
And all the stories that you read that we can read in your book is really about leadership, learning, all the project to help managers and senior managers to learn and to develop all their competences. All is about leadership and learning. It's quite. Yes. I think it's quite amazing because we don't. In France, I think we don't. I don't know if it's the right word, but I tried. Right. We don't consider the leadership as something we can learn really. I don't know if it's the same in America, but in France I think it's you've got the leadership or you haven't got it. So it's very interesting to read about all these projects about learning, and the
Yeah.
process of learning.
Yes. Well, I think, I'm reflecting on that comment. I think sometimes people think of leadership as just the setting the direction and, okay, everybody follow me.
Yeah.
But really, as Mr. Yoshino describes, it's setting the direction and providing the support, and then always looking at how are we improving ourselves. And so we need both. We both need direction and targets and challenges, and we need the support to get there. And one without the other is not going to work. In the same way that if we have the tools without the people, if
it can't work.
As Yoshino says, it's a cart with two wheels, and if we're missing one, it cannot go forward.
There is another thing very interesting in your book. It's very particular. It's not about lean, but it's about life, and it's very interesting. It's what you say about the fabric of our life. I don't know if you say if you say like that, but the idea that you have about peak of Mr. Yoshino career and about our career with these two dimensions, warp and weft. Perhaps I can you can explain how it works, and yes. I can just perhaps say the word in French, warp and weft, because I have to look at in my dictionary to know. En français, warp et weft, c'est le fil de chaîne et le fil de trame. Le fil de chaîne, c'est warp, c'est donc ce qui va dans un tissu mettre la trame, enfin pas la trame, mais la base pour le tissage. Et weft, c'est le fil de trame qui va passer et tisser une maille avec les fils de chaîne, et c'est l'ensemble de ces deux fils qui vont créer le tissu et les motifs et sa densité, etc. Donc c'est vraiment le maillage de ces deux dimensions horizontales et verticales. You can tell it in English now. What was your intention and your idea? Because it's very interesting.
Well, thank you. I actually was not familiar with really the concept of warp and weft. I had heard the words before, but didn't have an appreciation for the structure. And I think it's very interesting too that this concept of weaving and of warp and weft reflects back in some ways to Toyota's beginning as a loom and as a weaving company.
Yeah, sure.
That was just luck. This came about because I was talking to Mr. Yoshino as I was starting to think about how to write the book. And I said to him that I really felt like there were two threads of purpose in his life. And I used the word thread. And he said, well, yeah, actually, he said, that reminds me of a philosophy of the kimono makers around these threads of warp and weft, that the warp threads, which are the ones that are set on the loom, which are very sturdy, represent the power and the force and the goals and the inner spirit of the kimono weaver. And then the weft threads are the things that are discovered, that are chosen, that are incorporated, but sometimes break or can be variable. But it's the intersection between these two that create the pattern that we see in the richness. And I thought it was a really interesting metaphor, and I started to do some more research around that sort of philosophy and concept. And to me, it really struck me as a way to tell his story, and also for a way for us all to reflect on what are those elements in our life that give us perseverance, that give us structure in our lives, that are the most important. And for Mr. Yoshino, he had a very strong goal of moving to the United States and leading a very international life. And that was a constant from the time he was about 7 years old all the way through today. For others of us, those things may not be totally clear at the same age, but there are things that pull us in that are very important.
Our guides for all, our North Star.
Yes, our North Stars, those things that really are what re-anchor us when we have setbacks. And then all of the other elements were really for me, this thread of learning and leading, and all of his stories were, as you said, are so focused on that. And that's really what his experience of his time at Toyota was around. But also it was through pursuing his goals that put him in the position for different opportunities to learn and lead. And so I call it the known and the discovered, and how the known in our life and the things that we discover through failure, through success, and how they intersect is what is really the fabric of our purpose, our fabric of our lives, and creates the pattern and richness that make us unique individuals. So I thought it was it was something that really struck me and gave a nice framework for writing the stories, because I also didn't know how there was an element of his life, you know, the personal side of him, which was around this real personal goal about moving to the US that didn't necessarily, it related to the things he was learning at Toyota, but wasn't part of that per se. So it was the foundation on which allowed him to have those experiences.
Yes, your metaphor, it's a metaphor of life, I don't know, but
Yeah.
make me think about my weft and my warp. I don't know yet if I'm clear with that, but it was very interesting. And I'm sure that you share some warp or weft with Mr. Yoshino to have this partnership, or this.
Yes.
I don't know if you have thinking about yours, but I think I'm sure you do it.
Yes. Yes. I would say we have many things in common. That sense of being an international person has started in me as a very young age, and I made choices to go live overseas as a teenager. And so I feel like we have that in common, this sense of being broader in the world than just where we come from. And then we both have a real passion for learning and helping other people learn as well. So I think that because we have such a strong foundation of purpose together, we get along so well.
Do you think we've got some weft or warp, similar weft or warp in all the people who practice Lean? I don't know.
That's a hard thing to say, that yes, everyone has the same. I would say that there's probably some commonality around certainly the desire to help people and to learn from the true essence of it. Although the things that are our warp threads may be different, but
to take care about people, care about people, or something about caring for people.
Yes.
I was thinking in myself, it's like a mental DNA, something like that. Something that is in your mind, our mind, and
your heart. Yes.
Mind and heart. So mental and artful DNA. I don't know. So but it's very interesting idea. I just we can't speak here about all the stories that you tell in the book. You wrote, I'm sorry, about projects, about success, about failure, about a lot of things. And it's very, very interesting to see even the difficulties for Toyota to convince all manager with the right attitude, the right for them attitude. So it's not they are not perfect also. It's everybody is a human being, and they are not perfect. It's very, very interesting, because sometimes when we speak about this firm, say, they are the most perfect, but no, it's not perfect. Also there.
Yes, well, and we need to see Toyota is not perfect either. They are years ahead of most organizations in terms of this learning culture and this focus on people, but they make mistakes as an organization. But Mr. Yoshino says what he sees is, even when mistakes are made or failures happen, there's a stronger habit for coming in and really doing that hansei of the understanding, as you said, we're going to show here, not just on the outcome, but what was the process that led to those outcomes, and how can they adjust that for the future and change that? Yeah.
That's just my next point. That
I know, perfect.
yeah, not so well prepared, but uh, what's the key? Perhaps what's the key to learn and to improve everyone and the results is the focus that they make on the process. And I remember this I don't know, scheme, how do you say, le schéma
The diagram, yes.
diagram, so thank you, that Yoshino has shared with us in Lyon, and
Yes.
we can find it in your book too, and it's very, very interesting to see that the focus on the process, because it's the only way to understand what we are doing and what we have failed or succeed on the action that we have tried. And it's very interesting. I don't know how you speak about this this diagram with Yoshino, and how you can use it.
Yes, well,
in your way.
So, you know, I saw the diagram from him similarly as you have as well, through different presentations that he shares. But even before the diagram, we talked about so much about how process is much more important than the outcome. Of course, outcomes are important too, but also it's the understanding if we don't achieve our outcome or we don't achieve the results we wanted, understanding the process is where the learning happens. Otherwise, he says, you know, it's just luck. If you achieve the outcome you want, but you have no idea how you got there, it doesn't really, you're not maybe able to repeat it for the future. And the same thing with, sorry, you're somehow you got stuck over on this other side of my screen there. I was like talking to the corner. How we understanding the process and the steps are so much more valuable. And again, this goes on into people development as well, that we need to give space for the learning and for the failure, because if we just give people the answer, they're not learning the process of learning. And so we miss out on that opportunity to really create a learning organization.
Yes, sure. So it's very, very powerful to have this diagram with us. And the more I learn and I practice Lean, and the more I understand the richness of this diagram. It's very simple but very rich. So do you have a favorite story in the book, or the favorite moment that you want to share with us tonight about your writing your book, or in the book?
Well, there's so many rich stories, as you know. Oh my gosh, there's well, okay, I'm going to share two. One is more of the process of working with Mr. Yoshino on uncovering the water ski boat experience. I mean, really, it's a decade. And literally up until just a few months ago, I was still getting more information from him, because I was saying, I don't understand this. And oh, it was probably about a year ago when we were really doing more details, because otherwise he was just talk about it as, oh, my water ski boat failure, which he always talks about. But I was trying to understand what happened, and he had a very gray face, like kind of a sad face for many of our conversations. And one night, and I talk about this at the end, he all of a sudden he was back to himself, and he said, you know what, I realized it's okay. Like, I'm seeing these experiences in a different light. Your questions, and then that you are asking me, and the things you are saying back to me are helping me see things, that it's not all bad and it's not all my responsibility. And it was a very complex time. So from a personal perspective of helping, it just was I feel like a gift that I was able to give him to reflect on his life and see in a different way. And the story, yes. But the story I think that really stands out to me, which is just incredible. And he is this 10-month assignment that he had after he lived in the United States for 4 years and returned to Japan. And he was assigned to this department in Nagoya in human resources, where he had about 100 people reporting to him. And he saw that these young people had not had much experience outside of their small towns and they just hadn't seen opportunities broader or had anyone to support and coach and mentor them or give them opportunities. And so he really saw it as his role to do that and to not micromanage, let his 2 assistant managers do that, and see his role of helping give people opportunities to learn and share, and for him to help impart some of his knowledge. And the things he did along the way, from just even writing his credo, his leadership credo of the 10 most important things to him, which reflects actually something that Mr. Nomoto had done previously, to creating this program that he calls in English the Change Yourself program, where he helped create experiences for his people to go travel to a different city. Maybe they have never gone outside of Nagoya, or even he collected 11 pairs of airline tickets to go travel overseas and have broader experiences, and he helped fund that. And it's just a really special and unique story of him really going over and beyond his role to really focus on ways to develop his people, not just through the work, which is important, but also through helping them see maybe a bigger picture and helping them identify their warp threads. And so I love that. And on my website, I do include the actual original or translated version of his Change Yourself program and other things. I think it's really beautiful. It's just a really beautiful story of leadership and caring about people.
Okay. And all these materials, all these discussions, do you have changed your vision of your own vision of your leadership model after all these discussions?
Yeah, it's so hard to say because it's happened over the period of 6 years. I would say it hasn't. My sense of a leadership model has not changed, but it has been enriched and deeper. So these things that I knew, I know more deeply now, and both from his stories and his experience, but also through the reflection that I have had about my own experiences, the things
after
I've done well. Yes. So but it's been little by little, so it's hard to say. But yes, and more of an enrichment than a change.
Okay. So I didn't ask. I just look at the chat. If someone have some questions.
Yeah, I'd love to have questions.
Katie?
Yeah.
Michael, if you are here,
yeah.
You can join us if you want. Or Catherine?
We have no question on the chat right now, but just one question. Maybe did you plan to talk about NUMI, because the experience of NUMI and the learning of NUMI is really interesting. I don't know whether you want to comment on that a bit, Katie.
Happy to comment on anything. See, what I like about live events is that there's an opportunity for poll, opposed to me assuming what people want to hear. So that's great. So yes, for those of you who don't know what NUMI is, it was the very first venture that Toyota had outside of Japan, and it was a joint venture with General Motors car manufacturing company in the United States. And actually, it was just across, maybe 40 miles from where I'm standing right now is where the former NUMI factory was. And I had the pleasure of going to NUMI when it was still NUMI, when I was in my early days of learning lean. And so I'm very grateful I had a chance to go there. And this is the time that John Shook reported to Mr. Yoshino. So they knew that they were Toyota. When I say they knew that they needed to learn about American culture and have, because they didn't want to just make assumptions. So they hired John as their American representative. Although John and Mr. Yoshino always laugh a bit because John is not necessarily your typical American. He's a little bit different, or not your standard American from the shop floor. But anyhow, Mr. Yoshino was assigned to be the head of the training department for NUMI. So all of the team leaders and group leaders, so more of the frontline management, that mostly all came from General Motors, and now we're going to work in the NUMI factory, were sent in cohorts of about 30 people to Japan to have an immersive 3-week experience. And, you know, there's all these details that you can read about in the book about how they were thinking about creating this learning program for people. And then Mr. Yoshino said they knew they couldn't just tell people what to do, but to really give an experience of what a different way of working looked like. But it wasn't just a one-time training. Their training partner from Japan actually, when each cohort went back to the United States to start working and applying, would go over to the US for several months and work alongside with that person as well. So it was a true coaching model that we don't see very often, I would say, at any company I certainly have been part of. So, and then within a year, the NUMI plant went from being the worst performing on so many dimensions, from people to output from GM to being the top performing. And so it really shows that with the right support and the right coaching and the right leadership, that really culture can be changed, but it has to be changed from the people doing the work. And Mr. Yoshino talks about that too. A training department or an operational excellence department cannot change the culture of the organization. They can create the learning experiences and the support for people to learn and to change for themselves. And I think that's a really important thing for many of us to remember who are in coaching and consulting types of roles, that just telling people what to do is not going to change their hearts.
That's enough.
But it's helping them move through those changes and the discomfort and the struggle to get there.
I think I'm connecting the dots between two things I hadn't thought before listening to you. I don't know if do you remember when the scientists first started studying Buddhist monks? So they put these electrodes on people's heads.
Oh, yeah, the thoughts of,
and then the monks start laughing. So scientists start explaining, but look, electrodes, electrical currents, and then the monks laugh and laugh. The scientists just get annoyed and say, okay, get on with it. And then many years later, when the monks have learned to speak English, they say, it's not here, it's all here.
Yes, they're like,
they were not laughing, but the other ones understood perfectly what was going on. They were saying, you're just looking at the wrong place.
Yes, that's so true.
and what I just realized from something Annelise said very early on is that we think that technical methods, like you mentioned, operational excellence, will lead to mechanical results. So there are the people in Lean who know all the tools. You know how I feel about Kanban, and then that this will, or SMAD, and this will lead to mechanical results. Then we have the people in Lean, that what Lean has become mostly what I see in the States, it's all about coaching. So then they think that human-based tools will lead to human results, and we separate both. And listening to you both, I'm thinking maybe what we're missing that is so hard to explain is that the analytical tools, the techniques of TPS are about having a human response, what you're saying about learning. So all these analytical techniques that we think should lead to analytical results, we think here, but in fact,
we have to think here.
It's about engaging people, it's about creating teamwork, it's about getting to think deeper. And I'm just realizing this is why it's so hard to explain, because it's like you said, the two wheels of the cart. It's not left side or right side. It goes across.
I can't resist to show you the last slide, because it's just that. It's the drawing from Jacques with Itozukuri, Kotozukuri, and Bondokuri. You've got all the people, developing people, the art and making things happen, and then the things happen, the making things for the customer. But I think it's the same idea, no? And I try to say that the developing people branch is leading to learn, and the making things happen is learning to lead. But I don't know if it's true, but I try.
Yeah, no, I think that they are related as well. I love this slide when you previously when you shared it with me, Annelies, that it's really the technical side are, and to Michael, to what you said too, it's about learning. So, and it's what are the ways that we're going to learn more effectively or challenge us. I mean, even think about the purpose of Kanban is to or set, you setting your par a little bit lower than you think you can create. It's to create the challenge there to how are we going to make this happen more
beyond that. I think the purpose of Kanban is trust. I think we see, remember at least when we're in the factory, in the supplier in Japan, and we see all these people who are just there to make sure the Kanban works. So I think Kanban is a trust machine.
Well, I think you could probably say it's both. It creates trust, but also creates an opportunity for learning. How are we going to, how do we create that? Absolutely. Yes, but either way, it gets back to that human dimension. That the human dimension allow us to create a human connection. Oh, sorry, why are my calendar invites are going off? So I thought I closed out all my calendars, but apparently not. Yes, it gets back. It's all for the human dimension, ultimately.
It does remind me of another fundamental point that we're completely missing in our society at the moment. I think this is your next book, Katie.
Oh, okay.
I've got it. You didn't know, but there was a master plan.
Okay, thank you.
You earn your evening.
I
need
a glass of wine. It's too early.
Your darumas are in the long time. Our calendars and emails and WhatsApp messages are in the short time. And I think I love, as you know, I love your warp and weft metaphor. I think it's wonderful. And I don't know which one is which, but the warp is in the long time.
Yes.
You build capabilities. These capabilities. I think when I remember talking to Isao, you build capabilities. These capabilities offer him options. One thing he was so disappointed about that is that his build capability doesn't work in the both stories. But in fact, he didn't have enough capability. There were not enough options. This is in the long time. And then the weft is in short time. It's your calendar, it's the emails, you have to react something. And I think looking at the darumas, I think this is a lovely image to confront your calendar and the darumas. That we need to remember to develop in the long time. We need to think in the long time. And I think this is lovely with the darumas because that's what the darumas do. They're a visual, yes, they take you to the long time. This is not about reacting, but the only way to get to the long time is through,
it's through the step by step. And sometimes we get distracted by the shiny objects or too many priorities, but it's about how do we get back and reorient. And in some ways, how do you see that longer term goal as those guide rails, as the North Star, the things to keep
See, there you go. You're on it.
There you go. Building on the metaphor.
There you go. Your next book. Hey, isn't Daruma a wonderful title?
Yes. I digress, but somebody sent this to me. It's a Daruma face mask. So there you go.
Way.
People know me well.
Your way.
Thank you. And how it all gets back to the people. And yes, we want to create good things or services or value for our customers. But getting back to that essence of Toyota, that we make people, first, and we make people on the human side.
Yes.
I thought was very interesting is that Mr. Toyota in his speech in I think it was in April, he said that now Toyota's mission is about creating happiness in the world, and happiness. And some people have said, oh, I think he must mean, or other companies must mean like satisfaction. I'm like, no. I really think he means happiness. there's some other companies I go to where it's like, it's something about joy. Satisfaction doesn't spark the heart here, but happiness does. And so how do we create a sense of happiness, and know that and yes, satisfaction is one of it as well. Yeah, I digress.
No, absolutely not. It's just your next book. I think we're in a crisis. We're in a cultural crisis. I do not think we can send any sense of balance or satisfaction or happiness without your Darumos, without some sense of the long time. I think this is again, we're getting so lost here. But we need to find some places here where we see some meaning to our future and where we're taking things in control. I think you're not digressing at all. I think this is the next one. No, brilliant. Go. Take one of these balls. You've got plenty of free ones.
I know.
And write that eye. I mean,
maybe it'll be my next.
Yes, the rat.
Yeah.
You know that it's
2020.
One of the CEOs we know sent me the Murakami book about writing. And when I read this book, it said the guy says writing one book, you all just have to be clever.
Yeah.
You know, but you have to be a bit dumb to write the next one.
Yes.
By the time you've written 20, you realize you're really stupid because you keep saying the same thing again and again and again. Yes,
by getting more, learning more and advancing the thinking. That was something that another author warned me as well, as, just like a book, and you have to stop at some point, and like your learning will continue once the book is published, and you just have to be okay with that the time you hit publish was the moment in time, and you're
never okay. This is when you write the second one.
Yes,
this is what I really meant to say.
Exactly. So we'll see. I need a little break. I need first. The academic in me is strong, so the intellectual side of curiosity and writing has been reawakened since starting writing my blog, and certainly through this book as well. So
it's fantastic.
Yeah, so thank you for your encouragement and your support, all of you, and your interest for reading the stories. And I have to say, we really have to thank a lot of people who were, and Michael, you're one of them, who were commenting on my posts from the early days, and that kept me, moving forward as a writer, and also, to take more initiative, to keep working with Mr. Yoshino and others, and sharing that perspective. And so I thank everyone there for being my encouragement and not just my audience, but a community as well.
No, I think thank you, Katie. I think we made a terrible mistake 20 years ago in thinking that what the world needed was more lean institutes. The world never needed more lean institutes. It needs more thought leaders and more lean evangelists and people like yourselves who bring that energy and shine that light of lean. And so thank you.
Oh, yay. That's a nice way to wrap it up. Well, we all need to keep sharing our thoughts and helping each other. And one of my favorite sayings that actually came out of conversation one time of Mr. Yoshino talking to me, he said, 1 + 1 equals much more than 2. And I have really taken that to, when we talk about people, the collaboration and the support we can provide to each other it amplifies the outcome. And so, maybe it's not more lean institutes, but it's greater community and more shared connections that really is what is going to change the world, and is needed in today's political climate as well. So lead with the heart and help each other. Yeah.
So it's a great word to end our book club, perhaps.
Yeah.
So except if we are, do you have some question, Catherine?
No question. I think they are stunned.
Yeah. They are,
or
they are drinking our words
and reading it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. And please, anytime, reach out, and I'm happy to connect, even post questions on LinkedIn or Twitter, or email me directly. You can have all my contact information in the book, as well as on my website too. So, this conversation and collaboration is where we all advance our own thinking to another level. So thank you very much.
Thank you to be with us, Cathy.
All
Tonight.
right.
Thank you, Michael. Michael.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Say thank you, Cathy. Fantastic book.
Oh.
Some people they were here and they were listening, and I think you will have some French.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Now.
Connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. So great to follow each other. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a good rest of your night. I know it's very late in France.
Yes,
I'm gonna go make sure my children ate their lunch.
Go to sleep. So have a great lunch. Thank you.
Thank you.
And see you for your next book. So
Yeah, well, hopefully, I hope that maybe I can come to France next year. We'll see where the pandemic goes. But yes.
we are waiting for you.
All right, wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Bonsoir.
Merci à tous. On se retrouve le 22 octobre, je crois, pour le prochain book club qui est déjà en ligne sur l'ILF, si ça vous intéresse, avec un livre de Just in Time. Voilà. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye bye.